Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hey guys, good day. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. You're tuned into the JMOR Tech Talk Show. If you're watching us live, it's Friday, February 13th. And I know a lot of people have these omens about February 13th. It's just a day. It's just a number. A lot of people, when they build buildings, they don't want a 13th floor. It's a superstition. The day is a day, and, you create what you believe. So if you believe that it's going to be a bad day, well, it'll be a bad day. If you believe it's going to be a good day, then it will be a good day. This is the JMOR Tech Talk Show, where we talk all about technology. And it is so great to be with you, even though it is Friday, February 13th. It's still great to be with you. If you have not been here before, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you. If you've been here before, well, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you and welcome back. It's always great to have people that enjoy the quality and content that I produce here on the JMOR Tech Talk Show. If you are thirsty, go grab yourself some water. If you're hungry, get something to eat, whatever floats your boat there, and come on back to the show. Don't forget to check out BelieveMeAchieve.com for more of my, of course, amazing, inspiring creations. Today's show title is a really good one. It is Awareness over Autopilot, the hidden decisions AI is making for us. We're on Series 5, which means we're in our 5th year. And we've been on the air over 4 years, and we're going into just about the middle of our 2nd month of the 5th year. And yes, it is Series 5, show number 7. Yes, so welcome everyone to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Again, it is so great to have all of you here with me today, or if you're watching us on a replay, that's fine, or a podcast replay. Again, welcome. I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. I'm also an engineer. I'm a marketing specialist. I'm a video producer, podcast host, coach, graduate student, and yes, guys, a passionate lifelong learner. And it is my privilege and pleasure to be here with you. Once again, the title is Awareness over Autopilot, the hidden decisions AI is making for us. Are you aware of them? I hope so. So this is not an episode about getting you to fear, because fear is just false evidence appearing real. It's an episode about awareness so that we can take steps and prevent things. Because the most powerful technologies shaping our lives right now aren't always obvious. They're quiet, they're embedded, and they're increasingly making decisions on our behalf, whether we're aware of it or not. So from what we see and what we hear to what gets flagged, prioritized, or even ignored, AI is moving from assistant to, let's say, arbitrator. And most people don't even realize it's happening. And that's why this conversation matters so much. I always enjoy sharing these nuggets about technology, things you need to be aware of, different things that are happening in the world, and maybe giving you some insights. Hopefully that helps you guys. All right. So our first part of the segment is AI is no longer just helping us. Your car may soon decide which AI you hear. No, not just Siri, but potentially any external AI voice competing for your attention. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? And I guess they're doing it because of, I'm going to say it's probably because of competition. It can't just be Siri in the car. So Apple basically opens up CarPlay to outside AI voices. Yep. Apple plans to allow external voice-enabled AI chatbots in CarPlay, marking a major shift beyond Siri's only control. If rolled out, platforms like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google could, soon speak from your dashboard. But I think we got to be cautious about these things. And I know why they did it, because Apple doesn't want to get sued. I mean, that's no surprise. This sounds pretty convenient, doesn't it? But it also means decision-making is moving into spaces where attention and safety matter quite a bit. The dashboard is becoming a gatekeeper, and whoever controls the interface controls the conversation. So that's why it's important that I think we don't just let every Tom, Joe, Dick, and Harry into the kitchen, that we make sure that they're on the right plane, that they're going to do the right thing, and that they're monitored. I think that's a pretty big issue. Number 2, guys, design for autopilot. Europe is calling out infinite scroll for what it really is: engineered addiction. This isn't about people lacking discipline. It's about systems designed to remove stopping cues. When people understand, some of these things, they might, let's say, be a little more open to what's going on, as opposed to, just hearing somebody saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So these are some very interesting things. And when platforms optimize for engagement at all costs, they quietly shape behavior, especially for children. And that's why regulators are now stepping in, because autopilot, well, guys, it's not neutral. I don't know if you knew that. Yep, the European Union is changing some things. And I think a lot's going to happen with, the breaching online safety rules over addictive features, not just for minors, like infinite scrolls and autoplays, especially harming the minors. And if changes aren't made, owner ByteDance could face fines up to 6% of the global turnover. Well, first they were fighting to do one thing, right? But now they're trying to fight for their lives, because now they might be hit again with another problem. And again, all these companies, when they develop these things, they're not looking to build the safe world. They're looking to build the world that's going to bring the most money. I mean, I don't know if you know that, but that is the ultimate truth. And that's what's going on, guys. Well, number 3, childhood in a digital age. So Germany is now questioning whether childhood and social media can coexist together. This is a profound shift. When governments now debate bans, it's not about control anymore. It's about protection. The question isn't whether kids should use technology. It's whether technology is being designed with kids in mind, basically their safety. And I think that's a thing that many companies, they really don't address that point very well. So Germany considers a social media ban for kids under 16-year-old. And Germany's conservative Christian, quote-unquote, Democratic Union is weighing a ban on social media for kids under 16, citing hate, misinformation, and risk to the youth development. As debates grow across Europe, pressure is mounting on platforms like TikTok, Meta platforms to protect minors, or they'll face tougher rules, and they could be hit with some major fines. So I think the world is trying to get these platforms to understand that, hey, they need to wake up, okay? This is not about, we're just going to make money and just kind of do whatever we can. We have to do the right thing all the time, not just, as I said, when somebody is basically watching. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. More on AI? You got it. Coming right up. AI as a discovery engine. AI is now solving dinosaur footprint mysteries of humans debating for generations. And this is the upside of it. Pattern recognition at a scale we simply can't match, but it also reminds us that AI doesn't just accelerate answers, it reshapes knowledge. And with that power comes responsibility. And I think the responsibility is something that a lot of people, they forget about, that safety or that protection zone. They think, oh, it's no big deal. It's only technology. So AI solves a 150 million year old dinosaur mystery. Yep. Scientists are using AI to identify which dinosaurs made ancient footprints by analyzing 8 subtle traits humans often miss. This breakthrough could finally settle debates paleontologists have argued over for generations and rewrite about how we read prehistoric life. I mean, we just learned, guys, not too long ago, I think it was just about a few weeks to a month ago, that, we learned that a little tiny red dot, a little pixel in the picture that humans were missing for a very long time was actually the clue to help rescuers figure out where the body was. And it was a helmet. The little red dot was a helmet. And they were able to go digging, and guess what? They found one of the missing people. So I think the thing about AI is designed not to miss a beat. The problem is the beats it misses or makes, sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're not, and sometimes it makes wrong decisions on the beats that it picks, the pictures, the choices, etc. And so think of AI as a system that is designed to look granularly at many different levels. I think that's probably the best way to approach it, right? And see what's going on. And it's nice to understand where AI is coming from. So AI has this ability to look at things at a very granular level. So our naked eye can't do that, right? But computers can just exhaust that possibility. And then when they hit something that might be relevant, like a color change, oh, it puts up a red flag where people can say, oh, wait a minute. This makes sense, guys. This is what's going on. And I think that's an important piece for us to learn here when we talk about, how things are being reshaped. It's not that they're being reshaped for, I'm going to tell you, a manipulation. They're being reshaped because the data that humans see, well, they only see a certain part of it. Let's look at it like this. A microscope, okay? I don't know if you guys know this, but how much deeper can a microscope see than the naked eye? Does anybody know? How much deeper? So magnification can really vary, and that defines what it is. So you have a big scale here. You could think about different types of, things where you can bring things just a tiny bit. We call it magnification power. Something could be 200 times magnified, 30 times. There's even magnification systems. So basically, we take it from the very beginning. We can use the eye, okay? And the eye is pretty interesting because what the eye can do, I'll try to give this a little understanding, 1 meter to basically 10 to, let's say, 4 to the 4th meter, okay? That's what an eye can see, 1 meter to 1,000 Now, a light microscope can see right around 10 to 2.5 meters, all the way up to 10, basically 10. And these are negative numbers, by the way, not regular. So they're actually they're negative numbers. So it can see the ability to go from 10 to around the 2.5 negative, all the way up to 10 to the -7 meters. All right. Now, an electron microscope pits in right around 10 to the -5 meters and can go up to 10 to the -16 meters. That's 0.1 nanometers. So different types of microscopes have different resolving powers. Light microscopes let us distinguish objects as small as bacterium. Electron microscopes have, well, much higher resolving power, as we've learned. The most powerful allows us to distinguish individual atoms. And it's pretty interesting when you can think about a light microscope and think about, how it can do these things. And having a minimum wavelength of 400 nanometers or less than 1,000th of a millimeter. And this means that we'll be able to see any object smaller than approximately 200 nanometers. That's how we define it. Now, when we get into electrons, we're using electrons instead of lights, okay? And so electron microscopes are very, very powerful. And electron microscopes obviously cost more money, but they can see a lot more. So why am I bringing this to your attention? So when we think about artificial intelligence, right, our naked eye can only see so much. But what the AI can do is it can keep scoping, and then it can keep refining the picture down for any subtle difference. It's up to us to decide what we want to do with it. But the fact that it can see something, well, guys, that's a pretty big breakthrough, if you ask me. I mean, that AI can keep, drilling down when other systems can't do that, right? Like our naked eye. Number 5, the invisible cost of AI, or artificial intelligence. AI demand is squeezing memory chips worldwide. Data centers don't exist in the cloud, guys. They exist in real places using real resources, and that pressure is starting to trickle down into phone prices, into product availability, and into global supply chains. AI isn't abstract anymore, guys. It's completely physical. And I think a lot of people don't realize that AI is a physical thing now. It's not something that's just abstract. So what does this mean to us? Well, it means pricier iPhones. Apple faces a chip crunch moment, and a global memory chip shortage is putting Apple in the spotlight. As AI data centers soak up supply, Apple must decide whether to raise iPhone prices or absorb high costs to grab market share while rivals struggle. And I think that's an important thing for all of us to realize, okay? Because this struggle is something that a lot of people be like, well, it's not a big deal. But when prices start to affect everybody, yeah, that's going to be a problem. Number 6, guys, strategy over flash. After AI dominated, if you guys saw the Super Bowl advertising, Apple's real test isn't marketing. It's strategy. It's pricing. It's positioning. It's trust. In an AI-saturated world, restraint and long-term thinking may matter more than the height for which we put it under. And, that's an interesting caveat that a lot of companies are going to AI to create commercials and other things, right? So it was basically after Anthropic's Super Bowl move that Apple faced a price test. And, that's a problem. AI is causing challenges. And this means that, the people can steal market share while rivals are struggling, right? This is not like something that's rocket science. It's something that makes 100% of sense. But the question is, do you analyze things, or do you just say, you know what, this is how it works, so I'm just going to do that? And I think that's the problem with a lot of companies. They're looking for the profit. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with the profits, okay? But when we put the profits ahead of what's going to be the best for our society, that's a serious, serious problem, all right? A very serious problem. And that problem could affect, a lot of things, guys. Yes, a lot of things. I don't just mean one or two things. I mean a lot of stuff. So we've got to be aware of it. I'm not saying to be scared of it, but we got to be aware of capabilities. And we also got to be aware of things that pop out that may not be, what we expect. Sometimes it can be helpful, right? Like, for example, let's take the electron microscope. A microscope in itself is helpful. Electron microscope is very helpful. But could a microscope harm us? No. What it could do is cause us to have, let's say, over-anxiety because we're looking at everything. You remember people like hypochondriacs, right? They think everything's wrong with them. They have nothing wrong with them. They go to the doctor and it's like, you're healthy. Yeah, but I feel you're fine. You're a hypochondriac. You're making everything up. And when your brain makes something up, your body does everything it can to produce the symptoms to show you that it really is there, but it's not. Number 7, guys, bodies over brains. This one has an interesting ring to it, if you ask me. Robotics is hitting a wall right now, and it's not intelligence. You know what it is? You got it, guys. It's movement. It's grace, it's safety, and it's physical design. The next leap in robotics may come from better bodies, not smarter minds. And that's a very, if I may say, a very interesting caveat about, what's going on, right? So can robots ever be graceful? the race to fix robot movement. From clunky stumblebots, is what they were first called, to fluid human-like motion. Engineers are rethinking how robots move. Creators like James Bruton and companies such as Boston Dynamics are pushing new actuators, robot muscles, basically, that promise safer, smoother, more graceful machines. The future of robotics may depend less on AI brains and more on better bodies. So let's think about this for a moment. All right. So in order to think about robotics just for a moment, you need three things. You need somebody that's good in computer science. You need somebody that's good in mechanical engineering, and you need somebody that's good in electrical engineering. So let's talk about that. So the mechanical engineering is responsible for designing the shell and designing, well, the operation of it, the way it moves, that type of operation. And the computer science is responsible for programming the robot to do certain things, the behavior of the robot. Electrical engineering deals with actuators, interfacing the actuators. So let's take our hand for a moment. I'm going to take my right hand, okay? So just my hand, okay? Only my hand, and I'm going to take my hand, and I'm not going to take my wrist. So on my hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have actually 5 fingers. You probably do too. Now, if we're going to move the finger just one way down, okay, I would need 5 additional actuators, 5 actuators. If I need to move the other part of the finger, like we can on our fingers, so now I'm going to need 10 actuators. If I need to move my wrist, I'm going to need another actuator, okay, like up and down. If I need to move it left and right, it's another. So an actuator gives a robot a degree of freedom. So 10 actuators would give my fingers, I'd have 10 degrees of freedom here. So 2 for each finger. So I think that's an important thing to realize and understand is that, our muscles, our bodies, our legs, every time we have a joint, that is an actuator. All right. So to make a robot like a human is not so easy. It's very expensive. And data has to be reported back to these different sensors to make sure, A, the robot doesn't stumble or fall, and B, to make sure that it's very agile, that it can keep, moving from one thing to another very quickly and very smoothly. Let's take folding laundry. So there's been some robots out now that do folding laundry at the CES show, the Consumer Electronics Show. And I got to tell you, I was not impressed because how long it took for this robot to literally fold the clothes. I mean, it was like doing things 2 or 3 times, and it was so slow. And I wasn't even sure it was really folding it that well. So I think we've got a ways to come with that. I think we will come, but I think the key is we have to have more of a stable robot body and one that's able to support more of what's in our world, right? More of what's in our world. That's a very, very important thing. Number 8, guys, humans as brands. What are you talking about, John? Well, MLB players, Major League Baseball players, are becoming AI avatars. What are you talking about? That's right. Always on, always available. This changes what it means to be a public figure. Well, quote unquote, LOL. And it raises questions about identity, ownership, and consent in a digital age. So this means that an avatar could potentially be online and the fans could be interacting with it, but is the avatar giving the right message? We saw what happened with, I think it was one priest that actually was using one, and he wound up taking it offline because the system was actually giving, well, information that actually went against the church's teaching or confused people. What happened with that post office in Canada, or it was the UK? They took it offline because, well, the AI system was actually cursing people out and telling people that the staff at the postal services there was inefficient and incompetent. That wasn't the message that they wanted to be sending, right? I think that's a very big backfire, if I do say so myself. So Major League Baseball players turn to AI. Fans can now chat with stars, not just baseball players. It could be actors soon, right? Major League Baseball players have approved, unfortunately, AI avatars of themselves that can chat and interact with fans. I see trouble. Through a deal between Genies and MLB Players Inc., stars will get digital versions of their voices and personalities, opening a new era of fan engagement, monetization, and athlete branding. Yeah, so again, there's money going into this, right? And I'm sure a lot of money. So I think convenience is nice, but when we push convenience and then we have to worry about, is this the real thing or is this kind of a made-up world? I think that's a caveat for a lot of people. I'm just saying. So we will definitely keep an eye on that for you guys. Number 9, when speed beats security. An AI-built social network recently leaked real human data. This is a problem, not because of malice, but because of speed. See, this is a pattern. Build fast, secure later, apologize after. That's the whole concept of, we got to make money. We got to get it to market. We'll fix it later. No. This isn't like building a website and it doesn't have to be perfect. The security's got to be good, okay? It can't be, we'll fix that later. And it's people, guys, not platforms who are paying the price, companies. And we're talking about not just $50 or $100. We're talking thousands or millions of dollars. When somebody loses their identity, it's about $1 to $2 million to get it back. Did you know that? So that's a very, unsettling thing for a lot of people if they understand like what that means. And so, we're going to have to see like what's going to go on. But AI social networks leaking human data, it should be a major wake-up call to everybody. Say, hey, wait a minute, we got to slow down. We got to make sure that we're adhering to certain standards. But there aren't standards in the AI world yet. Trust me, it's coming. A major wake-up call. That's what I hope people see this as. Moltbook, a social platform built by AI for AI agents, exposed real humans' emails and application programming interface keys due to a critical security flaw. The breach shows a growing risk. AI-built platforms are moving faster than basic security, and people pay the price. Now, you can go online and you can do all these things, and guess what you find out? You could build an app in seconds, but what these apps don't do, you know what they don't do? They actually don't protect you. They don't make sure that everything is going to be the right way. I think that's a huge problem for a lot of people. And they're like, we're going to make a lot of money at this. And I get that you're going to make a lot of money. Trust me, I get that. But I think the biggest problem is that the money is becoming something that overrides the safety, people's privacy and protection. And you might say, John, maybe you're overthinking this. No, I'm not. You see, it's not the one off that happens. It's the fact that this goes into a big, massive pattern. And this pattern just is going to snowball. Let me give you an example. If a little tiny snowball, was there and, let's say it was going to hit you, not a big deal, like a small snowball. But if that little snowball, let's picture it started going down the hill, and as it goes down the hill, it picks up more momentum, right? And it becomes bigger in mass. Guess what? That snowball could possibly knock you down, maybe even kill you, depending on how big it got. So these are the questions that are being asked by a lot of people, not just businesses today, but investors. And the investors are getting concerned because, they don't want a lawsuit. And this potentially causes a problem that a lot of people don't want to admit, that we need to be concrete on how we secure data. I laugh at a lot of these platforms that say, we're going to create something for you in minutes. Yeah, they are, but they forgot to tell you that there's no security in it. Right? So these are concerns of mine. They're concerns of a lot of people out there. And we will keep an eye on it because I don't think this is going to get better, guys. I think it's just going to get worse until people respond to the serious wake-up call. Like I said, guys, the breach shows a growing risk. AI-built platforms are moving faster than basic security, and people are paying the prices, so are companies. Yeah. Number 10, energy meets AI. States are now pushing back on data centers. because AI has real world consequences. What are we talking about? Energy strain, environmental impact, local disruption. The AI boom is now colliding with physical limits. We just saw what was happening with chips and prices and availability and supply and demand. So this is going to get worse, guys, before it actually gets better. So spoiler alert there. So the states decide, finally, to hit pause on data centers. New York actually joins the pushback, finally. New York lawmakers are proposing a 3-year pause on new data centers, citing rising energy costs, grid strain, environmental impact. And as AI demand explodes, bipartisan backlash is growing nationwide, forcing big tech to confront the real-world costs of the AI boom. So this is worse than the dot-com boom because these are physical entities that are taking up space, not, just some domain name that gets an IP that would take the same space as 1 or 1,000 because it's all digital. It could all be fit on a hard drive. It's not like it needs a whole room. We might be talking a difference of maybe, let's say, a few inches to maybe at most, maybe 12, 24 feet, right? This is a big deal. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but if we had to ask the question right now, does anybody know the answer to this? How big, and this is the question, how big is, let's say, a new data center? How big do you think a new data center is? So let's talk about it in square feet, okay? So a new data center is typically 100,000 square feet. And there are 10,867 data centers globally located in 174 countries. So demand for data centers is predicted to nearly triple by 2030. Between now and 2030, companies worldwide are expected to invest nearly now I'm not going to say billion, I'm going to say trillion in building and upgrading data centers. Global data centers, power usage is expected to increase to 219 gigawatts over the next 5 years, enough to power roughly 180 million U.S. homes. On average, data centers cover 100,000 square feet, as I said, but hyperscale data centers are as large as 10 million square feet. Data centers are present in more than 170 countries, and nearly 40% are located in the United States. Large data centers are up to 5 million gallons of water being used per day for cooling them. U.S. states with multiple data centers create more than 30 billion in additional economic output annually. Those are some very, very big numbers. And, it reminds me of a problem. So we have a builder in town that's taking a piece of land and building something. When you take a piece of property, let's say like this one piece of property in town there was a corporate headquarters, and suddenly they want to knock it down and they want to build stores or they want to build homes or condos or what have you, or townhouses or even single family homes. The thing that's interesting is that, there has to be more, let's say, resources brought to these campuses. And by campuses, I'm talking about basically a land where there's a lot of different homes. That's what I'm calling a campus. A campus development. Think of campus like a university, but I'm talking about campus like Green Farms Estates. And there might be 94 homes in there, or 495 homes, or Green Meadow Estates, or Oak Ridge, dwellings, right? 495 homes. Even though they may not all be individual buildings, they're still going to require more resources, more power, more utilities like also water, sewage, right? Cable, right? For internet, TV, and whatnot. And so when we think about these things, the developer doesn't always think about it. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll get it through. So in one particular area of our town, a lot of our town, 80% of our town is all run underground for utilities and stuff. It's nicer and it also, I think, is more protective too from, the different elements out there, because when things are up on a pole, they can easily get knocked down, a car can hit them, etc. Weather can affect them. And so this one particular developer was going to build, and he was going to put everything above, when he had said before in the meeting that he was going to do it underground. But then when they looked at the cost is a big difference. So let's see if we can understand this. How much more is it to put utilities underground for, let's say, 450 homes? How much more is it? So underground power installations are a lot more. Okay. Typically, underground feeders run around 4,000 to 9,000 for the feeder materials. The labor, typically 6 to 12,000. The equipment and rentals, 2 to 5,000. Permits and inspections, 1,500 to 4,000. Road property restoration, because you got to do that, 2,000 to 6,000. Delivery, disposal, 700 to 2,000, depending on where you are. Contingency and overhead, 1,200 to 3,500. Total project, anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. So, that's a pretty big difference. Okay. When we think about the costs and how that can work, the trenching and things. So what drives the price? Distance from the utility is a primary factor. Longer runs require more conduit, cable, and labor. The trench depth, and also the terrain of, where you're actually putting them. I think that becomes a big issue. And so if a road is bore, having to go pretty deep, and requiring, it can have the need for multiple services that are added. Prices move toward the high end, and assumptions, regions, and specs and label hours, they just kind of triple, guys. They just got to go through. So the ways you can save are making sure you've done things up front. But a lot of these builders, guys, they don't really care. They just want to get it in. They want to make fast money, and they want to get out. That's very sad. So one particular area, it's speculated right now, they can't make the money they wanted to make. They thought they were going to make so much money. They want to sell it back to another developer because, I think they're feeling it's going to be more of a loss leader, because if they don't do the things that the town wants or the residents want, they're going to be hit with lawsuits. And I guess they feel it might not be worth all that headache. Number 11, guys, security or theater. Airport security feels intense right now, doesn't it? But tests have show threats still slip through. Sorry to warn you there. So the question becomes, are we safer or just more watched? Surveillance without effectiveness is theater, but this isn't a play or a movie. And theater doesn't equal protection, guys. I don't know if you know that. But a lot of people think just because there's cameras around that I'm suddenly more safe. Spoiler alert, you're not. So does airport security actually work? Transportation Security Administration screenings feel intense, but internal tests are showing mock explosives that people have put through to test this are slipping through 95% of the time. As facial recognition and biometrics expand, the real question isn't safety anymore. It's how much privacy we're trading for the illusion of protection. And I think that's an interesting question. It's an illusion of protection. Am I saying that they're not protecting us? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's not as protective as you think it is. Because there's 20 or 30 cameras, or there's all these rules, or all these TSA. It's really a hype. And in some regards, to maybe, let's say, discourage the bad actor. Many years ago, probably when I was only maybe about 6 or 7 years old, and I was always fascinated by electronics early age, maybe even earlier than that. And we had an installer come to our house, and he put a very old alarm system. This was many, many years ago. This was before digital alarm systems. And it was an alarm panel. I still remember it had the alarm key. You turn it, And I remember what we used to do in the beginning. We used to have the key, okay? And the key would be there. And then what we would do to make it more secure is we would put the thing on, okay? And then we would put the key in a raincoat pocket, like when we would go on vacation. And then we'd go out into the front or the garage door, which had a delay on it. And then when we came back in, we had to go to the alarm box and turn it off. Now, with the old-fashioned alarm boxes, guess what? There was no beep when you came in, like alerting you to turn off the alarm. There was just come in, and you had so many seconds, or the outside bell went off. There was no real sirens. There was just bells. And there was no voice that said, you have violated. That didn't exist, guys. That didn't exist. And then we went to something else. But my point here is that I became very fascinated with how that worked. And a lot of times, these security companies were selling you stuff, but it wasn't always the greatest thing. And so one thing that I learned is that you can have a multi-million-dollar security system, okay? And it's not going to keep the professional out. It's going to keep out the kid. It's going to keep out the explorer, but it's not going to keep every person out. That's why you need other things like security guards, etc. And one level is not enough. So that's why a system needs 3 or 4 levels, because one system is not going to keep a theft or burglar out. But having multiple levels, multiple systems, okay? For example, without giving away some strategy here, you have perimeter security, right? In addition to perimeter security, maybe you have motion detectors. Maybe in addition to motion detectors, maybe you have prism beams, okay? Maybe to that, maybe you've got floor alarms, that are based on weight. And, these are all interesting things. So somebody that's going to break in, like let's take the Louvre, right? The fact that they were able to just deceive people in broad daylight, coming in with basically construction outfits on and putting a ladder right up and then cutting a hole in the wall and nobody really saying anything. That tells me that people are not watching enough. And they even admit that they made a mistake. I'm not going to go into that. So I think a lot of times when you go somewhere and they have this big hype, don't think you're protected because they have so much, let's say, security. The security there is to discourage people from becoming a bad actor. But the professional who wants to get through that system, I don't mean to break it to you, they're going to get through it. So that's why it's important for TSA, these other places. They need to have more than just security there. They need to have more vigilance on the floor. But that's all I'm going to say about that, because I think that's important. So again, do we have security or do we have theater? And in most places you go to, you have theater. I will give you something at one of the religious places that I go to. They have security on. We have security on the weekends. And is that really doing anything? It's a presence, okay? If somebody was going to do something, hypothetically, is that one person going to stop them? No. That one person is there to be eyes and ears of the situation. So if something does get, let's say, serious, they can bring the police in. But is there enough time to bring the police in, even though they're just down the road? The damage could be done. So again, are we creating security, or are we just playing theater and putting on a nice Broadway play or maybe a movie? Because people feel secure when they get a feeling, regardless of whether it's good or not. Studies have shown that when you put fake cameras up, okay, even if it doesn't say fake on it, people feel much more secure with that. I remember a card store next to my grandfather where he lived, and I remember going there and they had all these cameras, and I said to the guy there, I said to him, I said, you have a lot of cameras here. I said, that must cost you a fortune. He's like, no, not really. And then he told me, he's like, he says they're all fake, but they look real. A major department store, I'm not going to tell you which one, has, let's say, 150 cameras in their store. Okay? But here's the catch. they don't all have a camera inside. They have a housing, or they have a spot where the camera would go, but they move it around different times. And that's pretty sad if a store has to be deceptive with making you think it has a camera. But supposedly it's been affected because you don't know which one's a real camera or not, because they all have blinking lights on their frames. Just an interesting thing I want to share with you guys. So if we're settling for theater instead of security, and we're giving up our privacy, I think we're being had. Yeah. So that's something for all of you to think about. I don't want you to be alarmed, but I do want you to be aware of, what that means. Okay. Let's jump on to number 12. Data never disappears. Yep. Surprise, surprise. Stolen data doesn't vanish. It gets packaged, priced, and it gets resold. Months or years after the breach occurs, consequences surface. The headlines fade. The damage continues quietly behind the scenes. That'll make you choke there a moment. Following your stolen data through the dark web, the data doesn't leak. It gets packaged, it gets priced, it gets traded, it gets resold like a product. From breach passwords to credit cards to medical info, most of it flows through a quiet pipeline. Private hacker chats, dark web marketplaces, scams that hit you months later. The real danger isn't the breach headline. It's what the criminals can do with your identity once it's everywhere. Because a perfect example, there was a movie, okay? And this movie where this person basically knew that he couldn't hide all the time. But he knew that he had to move certain times because when he got comfortable, that's when people could find him out. And it's months later that the headline drops. But the minute something becomes a little suspicious, that's when people's alert turns back on. They turn their alert off when, let's say, the headlines faded, maybe 2-4 weeks or a month, and becomes old news. But when something comes up and that potential links to a past behavior, it trips a bunch of alarms and bells, and then people are on it like flies. That's a powerful thing, guys. And this is happening every day in our world. Every day in our world. Private hacker chats, dark web marketplaces, scams that hit you months later. I didn't say days later. I said months later. That click of something you put in or that information, you think, oh, it's fine. And then suddenly you start seeing things on your credit card. Not days later. Months later, sometimes years later. Number 13, AI in the playroom. Yep. AI toys expose tens of thousands of children's conversations. Kids thought they were talking to toys. They weren't protected, guys. When AI enters playrooms, security must be non-negotiable. And too often, guys, it isn't. Maybe you're buying a plush toy or a robot or some other toy for your son or daughter, and you think it's safe. Well, if the security's not up and a bad actor hacks into that, can push their voice over it, grab your data, control its camera, and even befriend the person and try to set up a live meeting. That's dangerous. So AI toys are talking, and no one was listening to security. Hopefully they've changed. An AI-powered toy exposed 50,000 plus private chats with children after leaving its system wide open to anyone with a Gmail account. That's serious. Kids thought they were talking to a stuffed animal. Researchers found those conversations were never truly protected. As AI enters playrooms, this raises hard questions. Who's safeguarding children's data when the product is a toy? Well, it's just a toy. It's not a big deal. Hey, guys, I got news for you. Even if it is a toy, it's serious because that data can go somewhere. Maybe you're giving your credit card number. Maybe you're talking about a social security number or something at home. And that data is getting copied, recorded, and potentially filed and then sold off to the highest bidder. You wouldn't think this happens, but it does. And they figure, well, the kids are never going to pick it up, but they're going after the kids for two reasons. One, if they go after the kids, they figure it's going to be an easy thing because no one's going to be suspecting a toy to have technology that would be, well, like watchdogging them. They would never suspect that. And parents never suspect that an AI toy is going to befriend their son or daughter while they're at work or away, and then learning all their personal details, like where they bank, where they go to school, when mom or dad aren't home, when they're after school for an after-school program that they don't get picked up for a while, giving them the perfect opportunity to, hone in. Maybe they ride by and say, hey, you remember we were going to meet today? Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm Joseph. Oh, yeah, I remember you like ice cream. Let's go get ice cream. And the little kid, they want ice cream. So it's important if you're watching this to talk to them and say, hey, look, we've all had the stranger danger conversation, but this gets a little more involved than that. Because now when kids are having conversations with toys that are potentially AI and they're not protected, that's a problem. I think toys need to have almost an AI seal on them to let parents know they're safe. Because a lot of these companies, what I tell you they're doing, they're creating the toy, making the money, and we'll worry about the security later. Let's just get the toy out. Let's sell it. We'll worry about security later. Meanwhile, people are losing their identities. Kids may be getting, picked up. Bad things could be happening to them I don't want to discuss. And I think it's hopefully getting us to be aware that we can't trust something just because it's AI. I hope that is clear. 14, guys. AI and real-world power. AI is now helping decide which tips matter before humans see them. That speeds up enforcement, but it also raises some questions, some bias, some transparency, oversight. And when machines shape the urgency, accountability becomes critical. What am I talking about? Well, I thought you never asked. ICE is letting AI decide which tips matter. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is using Palantir's AI to sort, translate, and summarize public tip line submissions, flagging urgency with machine-generated bluff summaries. Critics warn this accelerates enforcement while raising transparency, bias, and civil liberties questions about how AI shapes real-world decisions. We can't have AI be at the forefront to decide what's important. That's a problem. It can give us some ideas in certain areas, but we can't trust it when there could be a suggestion that might have never get pushed through because AI thinks it's not important. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand something. Awareness over autopilot. None of these stories exist in isolation or just one place. They form a pattern. AI, guys, is moving faster than our ability to question it. And this is why it's important to stay knowledgeable about AI. Even if you're not interested in it, you have a responsibility to learn about it so you can be protected, because those that don't know enough, just a little bit, can easily get taken to scams. And autopilot, guys, is convenient until it isn't. What do I mean by that? I mean that it's great until it isn't, meaning it's great until it causes us some harm, until it takes our data and sells it. Awareness, guys, is not resistance. A lot of people think we're not resisting. It is an accountability. It is a responsibility. And I think if we approach anything like that, again, AI is a tool. If we know how to use AI properly, or even if we don't, but we understand how it works, and we ask these kinds of questions, we'll have a better chance of protecting ourselves and those that we love so much. So technology, guys, will keep advancing every single day, whether you want it to or not. That's not a negotiable. The real question is this: whether we're paying attention as it does. One change of a light, one policy update, one subtle nuance. And these subtle nuances create things to, well, morph over time. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 nuances become a major change. They don't change overnight, but these subtle comfortabilities of AI are going to get people to lower their guard. I don't want you to ever trust AI 100%. I want you to know that it's a tool and you have to approach it objectively. Using it for research, fine. Don't consider it your be-all, end-all. Do some other research on your own, okay? Be careful what data you feed AI engines. I've talked about certain engines, how you have to turn off certain things. If you have not turned off those things, again, be very careful anyway what you do, because this can be a serious problem, guys. And unfortunately, I don't want you to become a statistic. I want you to be somebody who's aware, somebody who's preventive. Reactive is when it's caused you problems, like taking your identity, taking your money. That's a very, very big problem. And people think just because it's technology, it's safe. No. If somebody asked you for your credit card in person, would you give it to them? I don't think so. So why is it that you suddenly feel so compelled to do it over the internet? You're home in front of your nice warm fire or your air conditioning on, depending on what time of year it is, having a hot cocoa, having a cold drink. Why is it you think it's okay? Just because you're home alone, you feel protected. That's an illusion, guys. That is an illusion. I want you to make sure that you do not let that happen. Do not let that happen. You will be sorry. You guys can catch the latest, yes, episodes of the JMOR Tech Talk Show 24 hours a day, yes, at believemeachieve.com. For more deeper insights and the original content, check that out. You'll get my short form content, my long form content. And here's where I leave you guys. Please stay curious, stay aware, and never let innovation run on autopilot. For if you do, you may just regret it. And the cost of it might be more than just money. Have yourself a great rest of your evening. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see you guys next week, February 20th. In the meantime, I wish you guys all a very happy, healthy, safe, and wonderful Valentine's Day. And remember, use technology smart and wisely. And if you do, it will help you and pay you back. Take care, everyone, and be well.